I stood in the gatehouse of the military compound, gripping the intercom handset with trembling hands. My mind was racing, a storm of emotions clouding my thoughts. But the decision was final. Calmly, I spoke into the device, my voice colder. Then I felt, "Tell Michael Carter to come back and handle the divorce." Silence. A full 10 seconds. Then, his voice exploded through the speaker, furious. "Anna, are you crazy?" I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "I'm perfectly clear-headed," I replied, though my heart was hammering in my chest. "If you don't come back within 3 days, I'll handle it without you." I hung up before he could say another word. The world around me seemed to freeze. Old Mr. Wilson, sitting at his desk, stared at me with wide eyes. His tea splashed out of his cup. He blinked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Anna, you can't be serious." I barely looked at him as I turned to leave. "Sorry to trouble you, Uncle Wilson," I muttered, the words slipping out like poison. He stumbled after me, his shoes tapping against the floor. "Wait, Anna, what's going on?" he asked, his voice tinged with panic. I didn't stop. "What's going on?" "Michael's on the front lines, doing his mission. I'm at home, making decisions. It's time for me to stop being the fool." By the time Mr. Wilson was frozen in place, I was already out the door, walking into the yard. There, my mother-in-law, Mrs. Carter, was hanging laundry, her old hands moving methodically through the clothes. My sister-in-law, Lisa, was sitting on the steps knitting. They both looked up at the sound of my footsteps, and I saw their eyes narrow with confusion. "Mom, Lisa," I said, my voice firm. But beneath it, a storm was brewing. I could feel it tightening in my chest. In this very yard, I had died once. The memory was seared into me. Mrs. Carter frowned. "Anna, what were you shouting about in the gatehouse just now?" "The whole compound heard you." I took a deep breath, my pulse racing, but I said it anyway. "I called Michael, told him to come back and finalize the divorce." The reaction was immediate. Lisa's knitting needle fell to the ground with a clatter. Mrs. Carter froze, the soap in her hand slipping from her grasp. "What did you say?" she gasped, her voice trembling. "I'm divorcing Michael," I said, my words like daggers, piercing the silence. Lisa stood up, her face turning red, her hands shaking. "Anna, you jinx. My brother is out there on the front lines, bleeding and sweating for this country. And you're sitting here, thinking about a divorce? Have you lost your mind?" I let out a cold laugh, but there was nothing funny about it. "Bleeding and sweating for the country? You mean, in bed? With his mistress?" Lisa's eyes widened in shock, her face a mixture of disbelief and fury. Mrs. Carter's hands stilled in the wash basin. "Michael is on a classified mission. He can't contact home. You need to understand that." "A classified mission?" I said with a dry laugh, a bitter edge creeping into my voice. "Here, let me show you something." I pulled out a photograph from my pocket and flicked it in front of them. "Here's his classified mission." The photo showed Michael, standing with a young woman. Her arm was wrapped around him, and they were kissing in a hospital garden. The time stomped 3 days ago. Mrs. Carter and Lisa went pale. "Where did you get this photo?" Mrs. Carter asked, her voice trembling. "Does it matter?" I slid it back into my pocket. "What matters is that I'm getting a divorce." Lisa lunged, her hands reaching for the photo, her eyes wild with panic. "This is fake. You're framing him. This has to be fake." I stepped aside, watching her fail to grab the photo. "Real or fake? Ask Michael when he gets back." At that moment, Mrs. Johnson, a nosy neighbor, poked her head over the fence. "Anna, what's going on? What are all these shouting matches?" Soon, a few other neighbors had gathered. The rumors would spread fast. This was going to be big. "Please, everyone, just go about your business," I said, trying to brush them off. But Mrs. Carter wasn't letting this go. She stormed over to me, eyes blazing. "Anna, you're going to explain yourself. Michael is a regiment-level officer. Do you think you can just leave him like that?" "A regiment-level officer," I repeated, my voice laced with bitterness. I used to be dazzled by that title in my last life. "But you know what, Mom?" I turned to face her, my eyes hard. "Being a regiment-level officer doesn't make divorce impossible. In fact, I doubt he'll hold that position much longer." The change in Mrs. Carter's face was instantaneous. The color drained from her cheeks. "What do you mean?" she whispered, barely able to speak. I didn't respond. I turned and walked inside, determined. I wasn't going to let the past repeat itself. This time, I would control the narrative. In my last life, I had died, betrayed by Michael, poisoned by Mrs. Carter. They had plotted it all, just so that he could marry his mistress, Emily Shen. And it had worked. But this time, they would all pay. I began to pack my clothes, the familiar weight of memories pressing on me. I had worked for 8 years tirelessly for this family, sacrificing myself for them. And what had I received in return? Poison, betrayal, a death that had come far too soon. But I wouldn't let it happen again. Lisa rushed into the room, her face flushed with panic. Anna, stop. You're going to ruin everything. If my brother gets disciplined because of this, what will we do? Disciplined? I turned to face her, my eyes cold. You think this is just a simple disciplinary action? Lisa froze. In this era, if an officer was caught in such misconduct, they could lose everything, removed from their position or even expelled from the military altogether. But this time, I wasn't about to be the victim. I continued packing, my mind working through every step of the plan. 3 days from now, I knew Michael would receive a transfer order, sending him to a more remote location. And that nurse, Emily Shen, would follow him. But not this time. This time, I wouldn't let them escape. Mrs. Carter stepped into the room, her voice now softer, almost pleading. Anna, please calm down. If Michael really did something wrong, we can handle this behind closed doors. This is still family. I paused, my hands stilling over the clothes in my suitcase. Family? Do you think I'm still part of this family? Her silence spoke volumes. I stared at her, remembering that fateful afternoon in my last life when she had poisoned my food. The look on her face, the coldness, the malice, it was all coming back. I straightened up and looked her dead in the eye. Tell me, Mom, if you had to choose between me and that nurse, who would you choose? Her expression hardened instantly. What is this supposed to mean? She hissed. I leaned in closer. It means I want to know the answer. She stayed silent for what felt like an eternity. Finally, she forced out a response, her voice dripping with venom. You are Michael's lawfully wedded wife, am I? I laughed bitterly. Then why did you poison me in my last life? The words hung in the air, thick with tension. Mrs. Carter's face paled, and Lisa stepped back, eyes wide with shock. I didn't explain what I meant by last life. Instead, I turned my back on them, continuing to pack. The truth was, I had died once, but this time, I would make sure they all paid. 3 days from now, they would have no choice but to face the consequences. I could feel the weight of the silence pressing down on me as I zipped my suitcase shut. My hands were shaking, but not out of fear. No, this wasn't fear. This was anger. The kind of anger that comes from being betrayed, poisoned, and forgotten. But this time, I wasn't going to let that happen. This time, I had control. I turned and looked at Mrs. Carter and Lisa, both of them still frozen in place, their eyes locked onto me, full of suspicion, disbelief, and something darker, fear. They could sense the shift in me, the change. I was no longer the timid, submissive woman who had suffered silently. I walked past them without a word, my heels clicking sharply on the floor, and headed for the door. As I stepped out, Mr. Wilson was waiting by the gate, his face pale. He was nervous, but he didn't stop me. He had seen enough to know I wasn't backing down, and await. He called after me, his voice barely a whisper. I didn't stop, didn't even turn around. I just kept walking, my mind already calculating the next steps. I had to get to my parents' house, but first, I needed something. I stopped by the supply store, bought a few things, candies, pastries, and a bottle of liquor. Not for my parents, but for my second brother. I would need his help, and I didn't have time to waste. On the bus to the county, my thoughts raced. The memories of my past life felt so fresh, as if I had lived through them just yesterday. Michael's affair, the betrayal with Emily Shen, his cold, calculated decision to kill me for the sake of his career. It all made sense now, but what had once been my weakness was now my greatest strength. I remembered everything, and I would use that knowledge to my advantage. I would make them all pay for what they did. Not just Michael, not just Mrs. Carter, but the whole twisted family that had stolen my life from me. I arrived at my brother's office and saw him sitting at his desk, his face tense as he looked up. The second I walked in, he stood up, his eyes searching mine. Anna, what's going on? His voice was low, cautious, I placed the bag on his desk, letting the gifts fall out. Second brother, I need your help. Lee Jameson looked at the items, then back at me, his eyebrows furrowing. What kind of help? Investigation, I said, my tone hardening. I need you to look into someone. Emily Shen, the nurse. She's been messing with my life. I need you to find everything about her. He stared at me for a moment, as if trying to gauge my seriousness. I wasn't just angry. I was determined, and Lee could see it. Okay, he said after a beat, sitting back down. But you're going to have to explain this to me. What the hell happened? I looked at him, the weight of my past life pressing down on my shoulders. I'm divorcing Michael, I said bluntly, and I'm going to ruin him. Lee's eyes widened in shock. Ruin him? He repeated. But Anna, he's your husband. You can't. I can, and I will. I interrupted, my voice cutting through his objections. He's been cheating on me for years, with Emily Shen. I'm going to make sure everyone knows about it, and I want you to help me bring him down. Lee's expression hardened. He had always been protective of me, and though he was stunned by the direction I was taking, he knew better than to argue. All right, I'll get started on it, he said, nodding. But you have to tell me exactly what you're planning. This isn't just about revenge. What if you ruin your own life in the process? I met his gaze, my determination unshaken. I don't care, I said flatly. They deserve everything coming to them. Lee didn't say anything for a while, just watched me with a mixture of concern and admiration. Finally, he spoke again, his voice softer. Okay, I'll get on it, Anna. But you need to be careful. They're not just going to sit back and let you do this. I nodded, grateful for his support, but I knew he was right. Michael and his family had power, but I had something they didn't acknowledge, and a burning desire for justice. I would make sure that my second life was nothing like the first. After leaving his office, I went to the post office. I sent out letters to Michael's superior, Division Commander William King, the military district's disciplinary inspection department, and the director of the hospital where Emily Shen worked. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. By the time I returned to my parents' house, the weight of everything I was about to do was starting to settle in. My father was sitting at the kitchen table, a cigarette dangling from his lips, his eyes flicking up when I entered. Anna, what's this about a divorce? He asked, his voice gruff. I sat down across from him, my hands still. I'm divorcing Michael. I can't stay in that marriage anymore. He's been cheating on me. My father's face hardened, his jaw tightening. He had never liked Michael, but even he hadn't known about the affair. That bastard, he muttered under his breath. My mother came in from the living room, her face pale. What do you mean, Anna? Michael's a good man. He's always been good to us. I shook my head, my chest tightening. You don't know him like I do, Mom. He's been lying to all of us. He's been cheating on me, and I won't stand for it anymore. My mother's face crumbled. But, Anna, divorce? What will you do after? Where will you go? I reached into my bag, pulling out the job transfer document I had secured through my second brother. I've already got a job lined up, I said, showing it to them. I'm moving to the provincial capital. There was a long pause as my parents processed this information. Finally, my father sighed, his voice heavy. If you're sure, Anna, then we'll support you. And just like that, I felt a weight lift off my chest. It wasn't the weight of Michael's betrayal. That would never go away. But it was the weight of the years I had spent being trapped, suffocated by my own doubts and fears. I had a second chance, and I was going to make the most of it. The next few days passed in a blur of preparations. I busied myself with making phone calls, sending letters, and gathering everything I needed to carry out the plan. My second brother was on the case, digging into Emily Shen's background while I handled the more immediate tasks. I wasn't leaving anything to chance. The military, the hospital, the local government, they would all know what kind of man Michael Carter was. He wouldn't be able to hide behind his rank and position anymore. But even with all this activity, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Mrs. Carter's warning still echoed in my ears, her promise of retribution. I couldn't forget the way she had looked at me with cold, calculating eyes, always measuring, always planning. She had never cared about me, not truly. I had been just a means to an end. By the third day, I was ready. Everything was in place. My second brother had already uncovered enough dirt on Emily to make her look like a common criminal. I had sent the letters to the right authorities, and now it was just a matter of time before Michael would be dragged into the storm. It wasn't until I was sitting in the provincial post office, finalizing the last of the paperwork, that I felt the first stirrings of doubt. What if it all backfired? What if my life, the life I had worked so hard to rebuild, was destroyed in an instant because of this vendetta? I pushed the thought away. There was no turning back now. I walked out of the post office, my heart pounding in my chest. As I made my way to the bus station, I couldn't help but think about the woman I had been just a few short weeks ago. Weak, helpless, waiting for a man who had never loved me to return. But now I was the one in control, and I wasn't going to let anyone take that away from me. The bus ride was long, but my mind didn't stop working. I thought about Michael's reaction when he would see the evidence. The affair, the embezzlement, the bribery, the military supplies he had stolen and sold to the black market. I had heard him mutter about it once, drunk and careless. That moment had been the key to everything, but I also knew that Michael wasn't the only one I had to worry about. Mrs. Carter was a wild card. I had already suspected she had a hand in everything that had gone wrong in my life, but now I had proof. She had been planning to kill me. If I hadn't found out in time, she would have poisoned me just like she had tried in my last life, but this time, she would pay. When I arrived at my parents' house, I didn't waste any time. I walked straight to the kitchen where my father was sitting with a mug of tea. He looked up as I entered, his face softening when he saw the seriousness in my eyes. "Anna," he said, his voice filled with concern. "Are you sure about this? What you're doing? It's going to cause a lot of problems." I nodded, my jaw clenched. "I have to do it, Dad. Michael's not the man you think he is." "And Mom," I paused, my heart tightening. "She'll understand, in time." My mother came in from the garden, her face pale. She had been listening from the hallway. "I don't want you to do this, Anna. You don't know what it'll cost you." "Michael, he's a good man, a loyal soldier. Good men don't cheat," I snapped. The anger flared in me again, the betrayal surfacing like a wound that refused to heal. "Loyal soldiers don't abandon their wives. You don't know him like I do, Mom. He's been lying to all of us." She took a step back, her eyes wide with shock. "Anna, you're not making sense. This is too much. You're hurting your family, tearing us apart." "I'm not the one who tore this family apart," I said coldly. "Michael did that, and now it's my turn to fix it. It's time to stop being the victim." My mother didn't say anything. She just stared at me, her face a mixture of fear and confusion. I couldn't stay there any longer. I left the house and walked to the bus stop, my mind racing. By the time I reached the provincial capital, I was exhausted but determined. I couldn't let anyone stand in my way. The next morning, I began my new job. The office was quiet, and the work was challenging. I had always been good with numbers, but this was different. The stakes were higher. I wasn't just working for a paycheck anymore. I was building a new life, a life that didn't depend on anyone else's lies or manipulations. At lunchtime, I received a call from my second brother. He had news. "Anna," he said urgently, his voice tight with excitement. "I found something big. Emily Shen. She's not just some nurse. Her family's background is questionable. Her father was a landlord before the liberation, and they've been hiding it. That's a huge problem." I felt a rush of satisfaction. This was it, the final piece of the puzzle. "Get me everything you can," I said, my voice low, "and make sure it's airtight." I hung up and stared out the window of my office. For the first time since I had left Michael, I felt a glimmer of hope. This was going to work. I was going to make them all pay. But just as I was about to go back to my work, my phone rang again. It was my second brother, his voice strained. "Anna, you won't believe this," he said, his words rushed. "Michael's been arrested. The military district has found the evidence. They're charging him with embezzlement, bribery. I interrupted, my heart pounding. "How much?" "Over 1,000 yuan, he said, his voice barely audible. "And there's more. They found out about the affair. He's going down hard, Anna. This is it." I leaned back in my chair, a small smile creeping onto my lips. For once, it felt like justice was on my side. The news hit me harder than I expected. For a moment, I just sat there, the phone still in my hand, processing what my second brother had just said. Michael, my husband, The man who had been the center of my life for so long was finally going to face the consequences of his actions. I had no sympathy for him, none at all. This was justice, and it was long overdue. But as I sat in the quiet of my office, I couldn't help but feel the weight of what I had done. It wasn't just about Michael anymore. It was about me. I was fighting for my own freedom, for my own right to live the life I deserved. The first few days in the provincial capital had been a whirlwind. I'd thrown myself into my new job at the textile factory, burying myself in work so I didn't have to think about what was happening back home. I couldn't afford to be distracted. I was building a new life, one that didn't revolve around Michael, his lies, or his family. And yet, with every passing hour, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. I had no illusions about the Carter family. They would fight back. They would do anything to get their way. My phone rang again. This time, it was Lee. "Anna," he said, his voice clipped with urgency. "I've got more bad news. Michael's being taken to military court. They're pressing charges for more than just embezzlement. They've found evidence of his illegal dealings, military supplies, bribery, the whole thing." I could hear his disbelief over the line. He was the one who had helped me dig up the truth, but even he hadn't expected it to escalate this quickly. "What's going to happen to him?" I asked, my voice cold. "With the evidence they have, he could be looking at over 10 years, Anna." "This is huge." Lee's voice lowered, filled with a mix of concern and satisfaction. "He's not going to get away with this, not after everything." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the papers on my desk. The factory was quiet now, the only sound the rustling of papers as I sifted through them absent-mindedly. The walls felt thick with tension, as if everything around me was about to explode. And I was ready for it. "I'll keep you posted," Lee said before hanging up. I sat in the silence of the room, my mind racing with the possibilities. Michael was finished. His career, his reputation, everything he had built was crumbling before him. The man who had once controlled my life, my every thought, was finally facing the music. I couldn't help but feel a sense of liberation, but also a nagging fear. This wasn't just about Michael anymore. It was about everything. My freedom, my future, the life I had lost and the life I was determined to reclaim. Later that afternoon, I received a letter from the military district. It was from Division Commander William King, and my hands trembled slightly as I opened it. His words were measured, professional, but there was a hint of something more in them. "Comrade Anna," it began, "we have reviewed the evidence you provided regarding Michael Carter's misconduct. After a thorough investigation, it has been confirmed that the allegations are true. We have already begun proceedings against him. Thank you for your cooperation in bringing these issues to light." I read the letter twice, then a third time, trying to comprehend what it meant. Michael had been caught. The truth had come out, but as I folded the letter and placed it back in the envelope, I couldn't help but think about the people who were still tied to him. Mrs. Carter, Lisa, they hadn't faced their reckoning yet. They would, but I needed to be strategic. This wasn't just about ruining Michael. It was about completely dismantling everything they had built, and that would take time. The next morning, I received a call from my parents. My mother's voice was soft, almost hesitant. "Anna," she said, "I just heard about Michael's arrest. What are we going to do now?" I sighed. "We don't need to do anything. It's over. This is justice." "But Mom," I interrupted, my voice firm, "you don't need to worry about me. I'm fine. I'm free." There was a long pause before she spoke again. "But Michael, he's your husband. This isn't just about him. It's about your whole family." I clenched my jaw, but my voice remained steady. "He's not my husband anymore. And as for the rest of the family, well, they can deal with the consequences of their actions. I'm done being their punching bag." My mother's silence said it all. She didn't understand, not yet, but she would. In time, she would understand that I wasn't just fighting for revenge. I was fighting for my own survival, my own dignity. The phone call ended, and I was left alone with my thoughts. I had expected this. My parents had always viewed Michael as the good son, the honorable soldier, but they didn't see the man I had seen. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know what it was like to be the one who had been betrayed, lied to, and ultimately discarded. But I knew. And now, Michael and his family would know too. A few days later, I received another unexpected phone call. It was from Mrs. Carter. "Anna, please, you have to stop," she begged, her voice strained. We can talk about this. We don't have to take things this far." I almost laughed at her audacity. She was the same woman who had planned to murder me, the same woman who had poisoned my food and had watched me suffer in silence. And now she wanted to beg for mercy? "I'm done listening to you," I said, my tone sharp. "You made your choice when you tried to kill me. Don't expect me to care about your pleas now." There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and when she spoke again, her voice was barely above a whisper. "And a please? For Michael's sake?" "For Michael's sake?" I echoed, a bitter laugh escaping me. "You know what, Mrs. Carter? You're right. For Michael's sake, I'll make sure he learns exactly what it means to betray me. And for your sake, well, let's see if the law has any mercy left." I hung up, feeling the cold satisfaction of having finally stood up for myself. The battle wasn't over yet, but I could already see the endgame, and it was closer than I had ever imagined. The following days blurred into one another. The tension in the air grew thick, almost suffocating. Every step I took felt calculated. I was no longer just surviving, I was living with purpose. Each decision, each move was a small victory. The military district had already launched their investigation into Michael, and I could feel the ripples of his downfall. The phone calls from my second brother had become more frequent. "Anna, this is escalating fast," he said one evening. "The military's moving swiftly on the charges. They're even pulling in some of Michael's old comrades for questioning." I gripped the phone tightly, my stomach doing a strange flip. "Is this really happening?" I whispered. "Yeah, this is happening." Lee's voice was grim. "There's no way out for him now. The bribery charges, the embezzlement. It's a nightmare for him. They've even found evidence of military supply fraud. They're talking about prison time. Real prison time." I leaned back against the kitchen counter, my mind racing. I had once been married to a man who had power, status, and control. Now, he was nothing. A man brought low by his own sins. It felt surreal. But there was no time to dwell on the past. I had a job to do. Michael's fall wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning. The next day, I went to the local photography studio to pick up the copies of the incriminating photo. As I walked in, the photographer greeted me with a wary smile, his eyes darting nervously toward the back. He knew what I was here for, everyone in town did by now. "Here you go," he said, sliding the stack of photographs across the counter. 20 copies, just like you asked." I felt a strange satisfaction as I looked at the images of Michael and Emily, captured in a moment of betrayal. I didn't need to say anything. The photos spoke for themselves. With a cold smile, I took the stack and left, my heart pumping with a mix of anger and triumph. As I made my way down the street, I couldn't help but think about the last few years. I had spent them chasing after a man who had never truly loved me, while he built his life on lies. But I wasn't that woman anymore. And Michael was about to learn that the hard way. Later that afternoon, I sat down at my desk in the factory, sorting through the papers before me. But my mind was elsewhere. I was strategizing, planning. I knew exactly what needed to be done next. I called Lee again, my voice steady, but my heart pounding. "I need you to get everything on Emily Shen. All of it. I want to know her background, her connections, her every move." Lee hesitated for only a second before responding. "I'm already on it, Anna. You won't have to wait long." "Good," I replied, hanging up the phone with a sense of finality. My focus had sharpened. This wasn't just about destroying Michael anymore. It was about exposing everyone who had ever conspired against me. And Emily, that young nurse who had played the part of the innocent lover, was going to regret ever getting involved with him. That night, after a long day at work, I sat alone in my room. My thoughts were swirling as I prepared the final pieces of my plan. I had sent the letters, gathered the evidence, and taken the steps needed to ensure Michael's disgrace. But I knew it wasn't enough. I had to make sure his family, particularly Mrs. Carter, felt the weight of what they had done to me. They had all betrayed me in one form or another, and it was time for them to face the consequences. But there was still one thing I had to do. I needed to expose Michael's entire network of lies, and I couldn't do that without more evidence. I needed someone on the inside, someone who could dig deeper into his past, his connections, everything. The next day, as I walked into the factory, I received a call from Lee. His voice was low, urgent. "Anna," he said, "I found something. Something big." My heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" I asked, a chill running down my spine. Remember Michael's black market dealings with military supplies? Well, I traced his connections. There's a man involved, a major player, and he's connected to the same group that was behind the embezzlement scandal. I let out a sharp breath. This is it, I murmured. Get me everything, every detail. I'm already working on it, Lee assured me. I'll send the info over tonight. I hung up, the weight of his words settling over me. This wasn't just about Michael anymore. This was a criminal network that had been operating right under everyone's noses. And I was about to bring it all crashing down. But just as I was feeling a sense of victory, the phone rang again. It was my mother. Anna, what's going on? We heard about Michael, your father and I. We don't know what to think anymore, she said, her voice trembling. I exhaled slowly, trying to keep my emotions in check. I told you, Mom. It's over. Michael's been lying to all of us. I'm not going to let him destroy me again. But he's your husband, Anna. You can't just give up on him. I felt a pang in my chest, but I quickly suppressed it. I've given up on him long ago, Mom. It's time you realize the man you thought he was isn't who he is. He's a liar, a cheat, and a criminal. There was a long pause. On the other end of the line, my mother's voice cracked when she spoke again. I just don't know what to say, Anna. This isn't the son-in-law we imagined for you. I felt a coldness settle over me. Well, it's the man I married. And now it's time to face the truth. I hung up, feeling an odd sense of relief. My parents were never going to understand, not completely anyway. But that was fine. This wasn't about them. This was about me. I wasn't going to wait for them to accept the truth. I had already taken control of my own life, and nothing would stop me from seeing it through. Michael, Mrs. Carter, Lisa, they had all made their choices. Now, it was my turn to make mine. By the end of the week, I had everything I needed. The evidence on Emily was damning, and Lee had uncovered the full extent of Michael's illegal dealings. It was time to make it all public, to expose the people who had hurt me, who had tried to bury me alive in their lies and deceit. I scheduled a meeting with the head of the military district's disciplinary inspection department. This was it, the final act of my revenge, the moment I would make sure Michael and his family would never recover. But just as I was about to leave, my phone rang once more. This time, it was Mrs. Carter again. Anna, she sobbed. Please, I beg you, don't do this. You don't know what you're doing. You'll ruin everything. You're ruining your family. Ruin everything? I repeated, my voice filled with cold amusement. You're the one who ruined everything when you tried to kill me. Don't come to me with your pleas for mercy. This is your doing, all of it. Her voice shook with desperation. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I wanted Michael to be happy. I didn't know what else to do. I almost laughed at her audacity. You didn't know what else to do. You tried to kill me, Mrs. Carter. You plotted my death. Don't you dare try to tell me you were doing this for your son. I could feel her hesitation on the other end. But I did it all for Michael. You don't understand. He's my only son. He's the only one I have left. Please. I let out a slow breath, savoring the moment. And for him, you were willing to destroy me. You're right. I don't understand, but I don't need to, because I've already made my decision. With that, I hung up, and for the first time in my life, I felt completely free. The days that followed felt like a blur, the tension in the air growing thicker with each passing moment. Everything was set in motion now. Michael's downfall was imminent, and I could feel the power of my decisions closing in on me like a storm. Every move I made was deliberate, calculated, and nothing was going to stop me from seeing this through. That afternoon, as I sat in my office at the factory, I couldn't stop my thoughts from drifting to the moment when I would finally face Michael. The man I had once loved, the man who had used me, betrayed me, and tossed me aside like I was nothing more than an afterthought. The bitterness in my chest burned hot, and with every breath I took, I felt a fierce satisfaction growing inside me. But despite the triumph, there was an ache, a gnawing feeling that I couldn't quite shake. It was the weight of all the years I had spent blindly devoted to Michael. The years I had sacrificed, worked tirelessly for, only to be discarded when I was no longer useful. And worse, when I had been poisoned, left to die by none other than his mother, the woman who had smiled in my face, all the while planning my death. I couldn't shake the image of Mrs. Carter's cold eyes from that moment in my last life. The look of malice, the way she had watched me falter. I had been nothing but a tool for her, just as I had been for Michael, but not anymore. This time, I was the one in control. I stared at the photograph of Michael and Emily Shen that lay on my desk. It was still hard to believe how easily he had turned his back on me. A kiss captured in a hospital garden, the betrayal so raw it seemed almost unreal. But the evidence didn't lie. It was all right there, and soon, everyone would. No, I would make sure of it. The phone rang, cutting through my thoughts. I picked it up quickly, already knowing who it was. "Anna, it's done," Lee said, his voice urgent, but filled with satisfaction. "I've got everything. The connections, the names, the evidence you asked for. It's all here. This is going to bury him." My pulse quickened as I stood up from my desk. "You're sure?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Positive. I've got everything tied to the military supply, fraud, the bribes, even more of his shady dealings with other officers. This is more than enough to bring him down. The authorities will have no choice but to act now." I closed my eyes, letting the words sink in. "Good," I said softly, a fierce determination filling my chest. "Now we make sure he never recovers." I could almost hear Lee's grim smile through the phone. "You're playing this smart, Anna. He's not going to know what hit him." I hung up, my thoughts already on the next steps. The disciplinary inspection team had everything they needed now. They were going to tear Michael's life apart, just as he had done to me. But it wasn't enough to ruin his career. I wanted to make sure that his family felt the weight of his actions too. Mrs. Carter had been the mastermind, the one who had poisoned me in my last life. It was time for her to face justice as well. As I prepared to meet with the disciplinary team the next morning, I couldn't help but think back to that fateful day when I had stood at the gatehouse of the military compound, calling for Michael to come back and handle the divorce. How easily it had all fallen into place once I made the decision. It was as if everything had been leading to this moment, this chance to finally take control of my own life. But despite the confidence I felt, there was a small part of me that couldn't fully silence the doubts. I had made so many enemies along the way. The Carter family wouldn't go down without a fight. They still had their power, their connections. I wasn't naive enough to think they wouldn't try something to stop me. The next morning, I walked into the military district's office, my heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and cold determination. The disciplinary team was already waiting for me. Their expressions were hard, unreadable, but I knew they were all too familiar with the gravity of the situation. They had seen the evidence, and now it was time for them to act. "Comrade Anna," the lead investigator greeted me, his tone serious. "Thank you for your cooperation. We've reviewed the materials you provided. Michael Carter's case is under investigation, and we are proceeding with charges. His actions have been nothing short of criminal." I nodded, my gaze never wavering. "I'm glad to hear that. But it's not just about Michael. His family, especially his mother, has been complicit in this. She's the one who orchestrated everything. She tried to kill me, to poison me in my last life. It's all connected." The investigator's brow furrowed as he looked at me. "You're claiming she planned your murder?" I looked him square in the eye. "Yes, she's not just a mother protecting her son. She's a woman capable of anything to get what she wants." I could see the gears turning in the investigator's mind. He had heard of people like Mrs. Carter before, people who used their position to manipulate and control. But he didn't know the full extent of what she was capable of. "Thank you, Comrade Anna," he said after a long pause. "We'll follow up on this. If what you're saying is true, this will be more than just a career-ending scandal for Michael. It will be much more." I didn't say anything more. I had done my part. Now it was up to them to ensure that Michael and his mother would face the consequences. I walked out of the office, my steps sure and steady, but my mind still racing. The final piece was in place, but I knew this wasn't the end. There was still more to do. As I left the building, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw Lee's name flashing on the screen. "Anna," his voice was sharp, filled with urgency. "Michael's been transferred to the military court. It's official. They're pressing charges, and they've started questioning Emily Shen as well. She's been caught in the web too. This is it. It's happening." I felt a rush of adrenaline as I listened to Lee's words. It was happening. The walls were closing in on Michael, and there was no escape. His entire life was unraveling, and all I had to do now was watch as he was crushed beneath the weight of his own lies. But even as I felt a sense of victory, I knew there was one last thing left to do. Mrs. Carter. She had always been the mastermind behind everything. She had pulled the strings and used her son to get what she wanted. She was the one who had wanted me dead, and she would pay for it. The days dragged on, but the tension was unbearable. Michael's case had moved swiftly through the military courts, and with every passing moment, his world collapsed further. The authorities were methodically piecing together his illicit activities, his affairs, the embezzlement, the bribery. The truth was spreading like wildfire. Soon, everyone would know exactly who Michael Carter really was. But I couldn't shake the sense that something still lingered in the shadows. There was one person left to deal with, Mrs. Carter. She had been the architect of everything: the poison in my food, the schemes to tear me apart, to make me disappear so that Michael could marry Emily Shen. She had never seen me as anything more than an obstacle, an inconvenience, standing in the way of her precious son's future. But I wasn't an obstacle anymore. This time, I was the one in control. My second brother had been keeping an eye on the investigation, ensuring that every detail of Michael's crimes was exposed. The web had grown larger than even I had anticipated. It wasn't just Michael's personal misconduct, it was a military scandal, one that was now spreading to his comrades, to the very institution he had once believed he could control. But this wasn't just about ruining Michael's life. It was about ensuring that everyone who had been complicit faced justice. That included Mrs. Carter. I had sent my statement to the military authorities, detailing her role in my poisoning. I had provided them with everything I could remember from my last life: her cold calculation, her willingness to eliminate me for the sake of her son. It wasn't enough to simply expose Michael. I needed to make sure Mrs. Carter paid the price for everything she had done. That evening, I sat in my modest apartment, sorting through the papers I had gathered. The phone rang, and I instantly knew who it was. My heart skipped a beat as I picked it up. "Anna," Lee said, his voice grim. "The military district has found something unexpected. Mrs. Carter has been linked to a larger conspiracy. Her involvement with black market activities, the same ones Michael was dealing with, has come to light." I sat up straighter, a sudden rush of adrenaline surging through me. "What do you mean? She's involved in this too?" "Yes," Lee confirmed, his voice filled with a mixture of disbelief and satisfaction. "They found evidence that she was the one who helped Michael arrange several illegal transactions, including the sale of military equipment. She's been using her position to profit off of military supplies. She's deep in this, Anna." I felt a rush of cold satisfaction. The truth was coming out, piece by piece. Mrs. Carter wasn't just a mother trying to protect her son. She was a criminal, a manipulator who had played a part in everything that had gone wrong in my life. And now, she was going to pay. "Keep me updated," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Let me know when they bring her in." Lee hesitated before responding. "They're moving fast on this, Anna. This could be bigger than we thought. She's a key player, and they're not going to let her off the hook. The military court is about to issue a warrant for her arrest. It won't be long now." I hung up the phone, feeling the weight of his words settle over me. Mrs. Carter was going down, and with her, everything she had ever tried to control, the life she had tried to steal from me, would crumble. I spent the rest of the evening thinking through my options. There was no room for mercy now. I had suffered for too long under their manipulation. I had been the good wife, the dutiful daughter-in-law, the obedient woman, but no more. This was my fight now, and I was going to win. The next morning, I received a call from the military district's disciplinary inspection team. "Comrade Anna," the investigator said, his voice stern, "we've received your report regarding Mrs. Carter's involvement in Michael's activities. We have enough evidence to proceed with an investigation. We'll be taking her into custody shortly." I felt a strange sense of finality, as if the entire weight of the past few years was finally being lifted. Mrs. Carter would face the consequences. Her time was up, but even as the news sank in, something inside me twisted. There was still a part of me that wanted to be rid of the past completely, to sever all ties, to make sure that Michael and his family could never hurt me again. And yet, part of me knew I wasn't doing this just for revenge. I was doing it for my own freedom. Later that day, I received a call from my second brother. "Anna, you need to prepare yourself," he said, his voice heavy. "Mrs. Carter has been arrested. She's in custody, but they're questioning her now. They've got her cornered. They're going to expose everything her ties to the black market, her involvement in Michael's crimes, and they're even linking her to the plot against you. I felt a surge of emotion, a mix of satisfaction and anger. It's over then, I said, my voice low. She'll never be able to get away with it. Lee's voice softened. Anna, this is big. The military is taking this seriously. They'll make sure she's held accountable for everything she's done. You'll finally be free. Free. That word resonated through me, filling me with a sense of power I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't just getting rid of Michael and his mother. I was reclaiming my life. I was taking control of my destiny. The next morning, I went to the military district's office. This time, I wasn't just a woman seeking justice. I was a woman who had found her strength, her purpose. The disciplinary team was already waiting for me. Their expressions were grim, but there was a sense of respect in their eyes now. They knew who I was. They knew what I had endured. Comrade, Anna, the lead investigator greeted me, his voice firm but respectful. We've completed the investigation into Mrs. Carter's actions. We've linked her to a series of illegal activities, including the black market dealings, the conspiracy to harm you, and her role in Michael's embezzlement. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. What happens now? Now, the investigator continued, she will face trial for her crimes. She will be held accountable for everything she's done, her manipulation, her involvement in the illegal activities, and the plot against your life. The charges will be severe. I felt a cold satisfaction wash over me. Mrs. Carter was finished. But Michael, he was still facing the consequences of his actions. His career was in ruins. His reputation was shattered. And that was just the beginning. As I walked out of the building, I couldn't help but feel a sense of finality. I had taken back my life. I had fought for everything I had lost. And now, there was nothing left standing between me and my future. Michael and his family had made their choices, and now they would have to live with them. But as I stood there, staring out at the city before me, a small, bitter thought flickered through my mind. They hadn't just hurt me. They had hurt my family, my parents, my second brother. They had tried to take everything from us. And now, they were going to pay. The next few days felt like a whirlwind. I couldn't escape the constant news updates about Michael, Mrs. Carter, and their downfall. The military court's investigation had been swift, but the ripples of their actions were far-reaching. Michael's disgrace was plastered across newspapers, the whispers growing louder. It was more than just a personal betrayal. Now it had become a public spectacle, and I knew I was responsible for it all. But as much as the power and control were mine, it didn't bring me peace. I had gotten what I wanted, hadn't I? Justice, revenge, the satisfaction of knowing they couldn't hurt me anymore. And yet, a strange emptiness lingered. Was it enough? Had I done the right thing? I couldn't allow myself to dwell on those questions. Not now. I had worked too hard, sacrificed too much to let it all slip away. Michael had cost me years of my life, and Mrs. Carter's attempt on my life had almost stolen everything from me. They would pay, and it would be thorough. I spent the next several days in a haze of meetings, phone calls, and letters. The military district was moving forward with charges against Mrs. Carter. There would be no mercy for her, not after everything that had been uncovered. But there was still one final obstacle: Lisa, Michael's sister, the last piece of the puzzle. She had been the one who had attacked me, called me a jinx when I had discovered Michael's affair. She had defended him at every turn, even as the evidence stacked up against him. And now, she was running around, trying to salvage what little she could from the ruins of her family. I received a call from Lee that evening. His voice was tense. Anna, he said, I need to warn you. Lisa's making moves. She's been going around town, spreading rumors, trying to paint you as the villain. She's telling everyone that you destroyed her family, that you're responsible for Michael's downfall. I let out a sharp breath, frustration bubbling up inside me. Let her talk, I said, my voice icy. I don't care what she says. The truth is out. Michael's done for. So is Mrs. Carter. She can shout all she wants, but it won't change anything. Lee paused before speaking again, his voice more urgent. You might not care, but people listen, Anna. People in town are starting to question what really happened. There are rumors circulating that you were the one who betrayed Michael, that you're the one who destroyed the family. I slammed my fist on the table, the anger coursing through me. How dare she? I hissed. She's the one who's always lied, always protected Michael. And now she wants to shift the blame to me. No, I won't let her get away with this. Anna, Lee's voice was calm but firm. You need to take control of this before it spirals out of hand. I've got contacts in the village. I'll clear things up for you. But you need to act quickly. People are starting to believe her. I paused, taking a deep breath. Okay, I said, my tone hardening with resolve. Get me everything you can on her. I want to know what she's been saying, who she's been talking to. We're not letting her destroy everything we've worked for. I'm on it, Lee said. I'll keep you updated. I hung up, my thoughts spinning. Lisa had always been a threat, always trying to protect Michael and his family. And now, with everything unraveling, she was grasping at straws. She had no idea how dangerous I could be when I was backed into a corner. I wasn't going to let her tear down what I had built. I wasn't going to let anyone diminish the fight I had fought to reclaim my life. The next day, I went straight to the factory office and requested a meeting with the director, Director Wong. I said firmly, I need your help. There's been a smear campaign going on about me, and I need to make sure it's stopped before it spreads any further. I need to clear my name. I'm not going to let anyone destroy what I've worked for. Wong looked at me with a thoughtful expression. Anna, you've always been diligent, hardworking, he said, his voice sympathetic but firm. But you're right. We need to make sure people understand what's really going on. I'll help you clear your name. Don't worry. We'll set the record straight. His support was a comfort, but it also fueled the fire inside me. It was time to take control of my own story. No one was going to dictate how my future unfolded, not Lisa, not Michael, and certainly not Mrs. Carter. I had come this far, and now I was going to finish what I started. Over the next week, the situation in the village escalated. Lisa's rumors had spread like wildfire, and people were beginning to question my role in Michael's downfall. I knew I couldn't let it go any longer. I had to act, and act fast. I called Lee and instructed him to organize a meeting with the key people in the village. I needed to make sure the truth was out, to take control of the narrative before Lisa could twist it any further. We'll hold a public meeting, I said, firmly. I'll make sure everyone knows what really happened. I won't let Lisa destroy me with her lies. This ends now, Lee agreed, and within days, we had a gathering set up. Word quickly spread, and the room filled with neighbors, co-workers, and even a few curious onlookers. As I stood in front of them, the weight of the moment pressing down on me, I realized how far I had come. The woman who had once cowered in fear, afraid to speak her truth, was now standing before them all strong, unyielding, and ready to reclaim her life. I cleared my throat, my voice steady. I want to thank you all for coming today. I know there's been a lot of talk about me recently, rumors, lies, and I'm here to set the record straight. I didn't destroy Michael's life. He destroyed it himself. He betrayed me, lied to me, and used me. And as for his family, they're no better. Mrs. Carter tried to have me killed. I'm the one who's been wronged here, not Michael, not Lisa, me. The room was silent as I spoke, the weight of my words sinking in. I could see the expressions change around me, the skepticism slowly giving way to understanding. I don't want sympathy, I continued, my voice stronger now. I want the truth to be known. I've suffered enough in silence. I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing this for justice, for my own peace of mind, and I won't let anyone twist my story anymore. The murmurs in the room grew louder. Some people looked uncomfortable, others were nodding in agreement. I had done it. I had taken control of my narrative. The tide was turning. As the meeting broke up, I felt a strange sense of peace. The battle wasn't over yet, but I had won a major victory. Lisa's attempts to destroy me had failed. The truth had been told, and now everyone knew who the real villain was. The following days were filled with a strange mix of relief and anticipation. The meeting had done its job. Lisa's rumors were being dispelled, and people were starting to see the truth. It wasn't an instant fix, but it was enough. The whispers in the village had shifted. I was no longer the villain in the story, and for the first time in years, I could breathe freely, but the victory felt hollow. Lisa's venomous words might have been silenced for now, but she was still out there, still fighting to destroy me. I knew she wouldn't give up so easily. The Carter family didn't know how to lose. I had one final task before I could truly close the door on them all. Michael? It wasn't enough that he was facing legal consequences. It wasn't enough that his career was in shambles. I needed him to understand that the damage he had done went beyond his betrayal. It had shattered my life, my trust, my belief in myself. He would never be the man he once was, and neither would his family. I hadn't seen Michael since I had served him the divorce papers, and part of me had almost forgotten the man I had married. But now, standing on the precipice of my final act, I knew I had to confront him to finish this once and for all. I arranged for a meeting at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Michael had already been informed that he would be forced to sign the divorce papers, and though I knew it would kill his pride, I also knew he would have no choice. He was trapped, his career in ruins, his reputation shattered, and now, his family in the hands of the authorities. When I walked into the office that day, he was already sitting there, his face a mixture of anger and disbelief. I could see the man he had once been, the man I had married, sitting there in front of me. But there was something different now. His bravado was gone. His power was gone. The military, his family, even Emily, none of it could save him now. Anna, he spat, his voice filled with venom. You think this is it? You think you've won? I stood before him, calm and unwavering, every inch the woman I had become. I've already won, Michael. This has nothing to do with you anymore. He slammed his fist on the desk, his face contorting with rage. You're ruining my life. You've destroyed everything I've worked for. You destroyed it yourself. I said, my voice cold. You chose this. I didn't make you cheat. I didn't force you to lie. And I didn't make you betray me. But I'm not going to be the one to pay the price for your mistakes anymore. His eyes flickered with something: fear, regret, desperation. But it was too late for that now. The man who had broken me was standing before me, powerless. And for the first time in years, I felt a sense of closure. I'm not here to argue with you, I said, my voice steady. You're going to sign the divorce papers, and we're going to go our separate ways. I'm not your wife anymore, Michael, and I'm not your victim. For a long moment, he said nothing, his hands trembling as they hovered over the papers in front of him. He knew, as I did, that this was the end. No matter how hard he fought, no matter how much he wanted to hold on to the life he had once had, it was gone. And I was the one who had taken it. Finally, with a grimace, he signed the papers. The divorce was official. It was over. I didn't say anything else as I stood up, gathering my things. I had no need to say anything more to him. The man I had once loved was no longer the person I was leaving behind. He was a stranger, a coward, and he would never have the power to hurt me again. As I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I felt lighter than I had ever felt in my life. There was no more weight pressing down on my shoulders. The years of fear, of doubt, of pain gone. I had reclaimed my life, and no one, not Michael, not Mrs. Carter, and certainly not Lisa, could take that from me. Over the next few months, life began to settle into a new rhythm. I threw myself into my work at the textile factory, using every ounce of energy to build a life that was completely mine. The world felt different now, more open, more promising. I wasn't afraid anymore. I had faced the worst of what life could throw at me, and I had come out stronger on the other side. One day, as I sat at my desk, lost in thought, the phone rang. It was Lee again. His voice was lighter this time, filled with a hint of satisfaction. Anna, it's over, he said. The Carter family's finished. Mrs. Carter's in prison, and Lisa's been sent away. They tried to make a deal, but there was no saving them. The military's finished with Michael. He's been dishonorably discharged, and he's never going to work in the military again. I smiled, a cold satisfaction settling over me. And what about Emily? Gone too. She's been implicated in everything, right down to the smuggling and the bribery. She's facing charges as well. Good, I said, my voice tight with finality. It's all over. When I hung up, I didn't feel a rush of triumph. No. It was something more. It was relief. Relief that my past was finally behind me. That I could live the rest of my life free from the chains that had bound me for so long. A few months later, I met someone new. David Wong. He was an engineer in the factory, sincere and hardworking. Our friendship grew slowly, with time and trust. He never asked about my past, never pried into the things I had left behind. He simply accepted me as I was. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly loved, truly seen. In 1978, we got married. It wasn't the grand wedding I had once imagined, but it didn't need to be. It was simple, it was real, and it was mine. Years passed, and my life continued to flourish. I had a family now, David and our daughter. We were happy. And as I watched my daughter play, her laughter filling the air, I couldn't help but think that my rebirth had given me a second chance at happiness. Michael, Lisa, and Mrs. Carter faded into the background. Their names no longer held any power over me. They had been a part of my past, but they weren't a part of my future. I had won, and now I could finally live the life I had always deserved.